It's 6:11, News Radio 102.9 KARN. First News, Kevin Miller, joined by Senator Tom Cotton. Good morning, sir.
Hey, Kevin. Good to be on with you,
Glad to
as
have
always.
You. It's been a little bit since we've had a chance to talk. A lot to cover. We'll start with this. It came out yesterday. It was a rebuke from 400-plus federal prosecutors saying that if Donald Trump wasn't a sitting president, he'd be guilty of obstruction, perhaps even felony charges also. I want to get your take on that as an attorney, your perspective, if you would.
Kevin, as I've said to you before, I'm a recovering attorney. I've been clean for 15 years. I try not to relapse. Kevin, Bob Mueller is a former U.S. attorney. He's a former assistant attorney general for criminal matters. He was the director of the FBI for 12 years. He and his team of lawyers spent 2 years, $35 million, and 400 pages, and they did not find obstruction. I know that a lot of the president's political opponents signed the letter yesterday saying they would have, but I don't put much credit in theories that the president could have obstructed justice by tweeting angry things about an investigation into something that never happened.
Well, it was more than that. It was that he had tried to, at one point, to look at firing Bob Mueller. Hold on, Kevin. Let me stop you there.
Right. This is an important point the Attorney General made last week. If the president wanted to fire Bob Mueller, he could have. He's the executive. He can fire any subordinate officer in the executive branch. The fact that he never fired Bob Mueller tells you a lot. Furthermore, what Attorney General Barr said is his interpretation, I think this is the best interpretation of what Bob Mueller wrote, is that the president raised legitimate concerns about potential conflicts that Bob Mueller had. And he told his White House counsel to investigate those matters and see if Bob Mueller could serve in that capacity. He did not say, according to the Mueller report, go fire Bob Mueller. Those are two very different matters, as the Attorney General testified last week.
Like I said, I just wanted to get your take on that. There's more to talk about. I don't want to focus on that.
Sure.
It's out there. Senator Tom Cotton, News Radio 102.9 KARN. Iran, the U.S. is putting together a show of strength there. What's happening in that country? What's the situation? Maybe you can break it down.
We recently dispatched a second carrier group to the Persian Gulf because we had credible threats of Iranian hostilities against American troops in the Middle East, in Iraq in particular. Iran needs to know that if they were to sponsor or launch any attack against American troops, the response would be furious by the United States, that we would seek retribution and to punish them to make sure that they can never do that again. That's not always been the case, unfortunately. Iran was responsible for killing over 500 Americans in Iraq. When I was there in 2006, some of the most dangerous bombs we faced were made by Iran. But it's a different day now. This administration does not give Iran any quarter, as we should not as a nation. And in part because of the withdrawal a year ago this week from the nuclear deal and very tough new sanctions, Iran's economy is in a total tailspin. Inflation is out of control. They've passed recession level negative growth and gone into almost depression level. That's exactly the right policy, because Iran is more than just an adversary. It's not just a nation state. It's a revolutionary cause that has hijacked the powers of a nation state and used them against us for 40 years.
Senator Tom Cotton, North Korea testing more missiles. The White House doesn't seem to be too terribly worried about it. I want to get your take on that one also.
So from what I can tell, Kevin, the missiles they were testing are not a new category of missiles. They don't give them any kind of new capability to hit American citizens or the American homeland. Obviously, this is Kim Jong-un, though, lashing out somewhat at the lack of progress or further attention from the negotiations that the President and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo have engaged in. They took the right approach at Hanoi. Kim Jong-un made unreasonable demands, and they walked away from the negotiations. At this point, they need to continue to insist on what our goal has been all along, the complete and verifiable denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. And, if Kim Jong-un fires off a few short-range rockets, it's not something that we have to react to every single time it happens, or to give him the kind of attention he's craving. When he's ready to come back to the negotiating table, then we can sit down and have a serious talk about achieving our goal, which is complete and verifiable denuclearization.
Senator Tom Cotton on News Radio 102.9 KRN. Senator, real quick here, too. The president plans to issue more guest worker visas. You're not happy about that, and why so?
Well, we don't need to provide guest worker visas for people to come into our country and work at resorts as lifeguards or handing out towels or ski lift instructors or working in our seafood canning industry. We have millions of Americans who want those jobs. There are 50,000 Arkansans who are unemployed. That is almost as many people as will come into the country on these guest worker programs. I bet a lot of those kids who are in Jefferson County and Izzard County would love to go to Aspen or Jackson Hole or other resorts in the Rocky Mountain this summer and hand out towels or be lifeguards. Why do we need to import Eastern Europeans to take jobs that kids in Arkansas would take? And for that matter, there are almost 5 million Americans who are ready, willing, and able to work for a job in one of these jobs. Again, why do we need to import immigrants from overseas? Why don't we just help them move around the country? If you're paying for them to move from Poland to come to Colorado to hand out towels at a resort, why can't you pay for them from Pine Bluff to go there? It'd be a lot cheaper.
Senator Tom Cotton, good to talk to you this morning. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Kevin.
All right. News Radio 102.9 KARN.